Hey guys, let's get straight to the point. Today I'm going to share with you my GR3 straight out of the camera JPEG workflow using the recipe that I posted a couple of weeks ago and Snapseed creating a preset to make the photos look a little bit more film-like. Just a disclaimer first, I'm not a film photographer, but I've seen a lot of film photos. That's how I came up with this preset, and also this preset is completely free. You can just basically copy and paste the settings and then try it out on your GR3 JPEGs using Snapseed. Snapseed is available on Android and iOS, so I am gonna use my iPhone to show you guys how it looks like. So on the screen right now, I have a picture straight out of the GR3 using the portrait recipe that I posted a couple of weeks ago. And this looks really good already because I was focusing mainly on the skin tone of my subjects, which is my friends. We went for a photo walk, and here I have the presets basically created in the Snapseed app. At the bottom row, you can see that I have all the GR3 presets. I will show you guys how to save all the settings after I show you this preset. So if I tap onto the last preset here, it says GR3 negative because I was using the negative film simulation on the GR3 to create this entire kind of result. And if I tap onto it, you can see that a lot has changed. So this is after applying the preset that I was going to show you guys. If I tap and hold on to the screen, it will show you before this preset is applied. If I let go, it will show you with the preset. You can see that a lot of grain was added. The tone of the shadow is a little bit more greenish, but the skin tone is still really healthy and nice. And the highlights, it's a little bit more protected, and the shadows are a little bit lifted. And I have this white border here because when I was still using film cameras back in the days, when we go print out photos, a lot of times we will have the option to add the white border, and I think it looks pretty nice. Some people, they don't like the white border, but that's okay, you can remove it after. Sometimes I make like 2 copies, one with the border and one without. So I'm gonna show you guys how the preset looks like layer by layer. If I tap onto the check mark, it will apply the preset onto it. And if I tap onto this icon at the top right with the 2 square with the arrow, usually that means undo and redo. If I tap onto it, I can view edit. These are all the layers. It's actually pretty simple. If you follow my portrait recipe from the previous video, then you can have this step by step. Just follow the same thing, copy and paste it, and you can give it a try. If you have photos existing on your camera already, you can actually change up the settings to apply the preset onto that photo, and then export the JPEG onto your device, and then you can apply this preset and it will still work the same. So I'm gonna turn off layer by layer. The first, or I should say the top layer, is always at the top. You see frames, that's basically the white border. If I tap on the curves underneath, it will remove the border. So that's why I have the white border at the top, because for some reason, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know how to do it, I cannot rearrange the layers. So you have to do it like the most basic adjustment at the bottom, and then the last one, which is something that is optional, you have to leave it at the top so you don't get rid of something that you don't want in the middle. You can delete stuff, but then that's just annoying if you have the preset ready to go. So if I tap on the curves, it will remove the frames. If I tap on the next one, it will remove the curves at the top. The reason why I have 2 curves adjustment is because I separated 2 different tone curves to create this color tone. So if I tap onto this second curve at the top, you can see that the green, it's going into the shadows again. So that's where I created it. And if I remove it, it'll go back to the natural, more of like the colors straight out of the camera. If I tap onto a grainy film, that's where I added the grain, and we'll talk about that later, because on the GR3 you cannot add grain. So it's a little bit different from the Fujifilm camera. I think that's something that I hope future GR cameras can add to the cameras. You can do it on black and white film simulation on the GR3, but for some reason you cannot do it on any other like positive film simulation or negative film simulation. So you have to add grain after. But this grain is really natural and super simple. And then I have tone image. That's the first layer that I want to adjust. That is basically correcting some of the things that I couldn't do with just the recipe on the GRIII. And I have this adjustment layer here to show you guys how I will adjust straight out of the camera JPEGs. This is not raw. You can edit raw in Snapseed, but I'm not doing it because I love the colors coming out of the camera with the recipe. So if I tap onto that tone image again, I have the option to delete it, adjust it, and if I tap onto that like 3 lines with the 3 dots, that's how you adjust it. And if I tap and, oh, I was tapping and holding, that's how you can show the before and after image. But if I tap and drag the slider up and down, you can see that I have different things that I have adjusted. First, I have saturation set to -20 just to remove the saturation a little bit. I feel like the saturation is straight out of the camera. If you don't do any adjustments, it looks okay. But if you want to make it a little more film-like with this preset, you have to desaturate it by -20. And then I have ambience set to +50 because on the recipe, I'm always having my camera set to around -0.3 exposure compensation. That means I'm trying to protect the highlights. So usually it comes out a little bit darker if it's JPEGs. So I have ambience set to +50 instead of lifting the brightness, which is gonna lift up the overall brightness of the image, or lifting up the shadows. Ambience, I feel like the Snapseed ambience option is really nice. It has a good balance of lifting the shadows and protecting the highlights. So I have it set to +50. So if you want to, you can just literally copy this and then use the recipe that I showed you guys before, and it should adjust the photos to make it like this, protecting the highlights, lift up the shadows a little bit, and also desaturating it. So that's the first layer. Second layer, I have the grain added. So if I tap onto adjusting this layer, super simple. I only have it set to A01, which is at the bottom left. That's the first option in Snapseed. And I don't want to like make it too fancy with the grain, like they have something that is like super creative, but I don't like it that way because I just want to keep it simple. If I drag the option up and down, you can see that I have grain set to +30. When you first apply the grain, it should be +50, I think, if I'm correct. I tone it down a little bit because it starts to get like super grainy. If you are posting the image on social media, let's say Instagram, I suggest you to have it set to +30 or +50 just to make sure that the grains are showing. If you are posting it or like printing it a little bit bigger, then you might not want to have it to +50 because it's going to be super grainy. You can set it to like +20 or even +10. But style strength, I have it set to 0. If I show you guys, if I start adding the style strength, you can see that it's saturating the colors, it's adjusting the highlights and shadows. So I always set it to 0. Again, you can copy this, +30 grain, A1 grain with style strength set to 0. That's the second layer. And then the third layer is my first curve. If I tap on the adjustments, you can see that I only have the option, let me show you again. It's set to neutral first at the bottom left. That is the preset curves that they have in Snapseed. So don't touch that, leave it at natural. So it will be a straight curve line before you start creating the curves. You can see that I have 3 dots set up here at the bottom left corner, and I have midtone drag down. That is the middle point right here. I don't know if you can see it, but the middle point is the midtone, and then I have the next bottom point, which is the shadows, and I have it like drag down a little bit to add in contrast. If I tap onto the image and hold, you can see that it's not as contrasty before the curve. With the curve, it's a little bit more contrasty. And then the bottom, the very bottom left dot, I have it lift up so the shadows are a little bit lifted. So it's a little bit more film-like. If you have taken like film photos before, if the shadows are a little bit more underexposed, which your shadows are a little bit crushed, then usually when you develop the film, it will lift up the shadows so it's a little bit like faded black. So that's why I had that bottom left dot set to a little bit higher. So that's the first curve. If I tap onto the little ball thing besides the X mark at the bottom, you can see that you have different color tone curves option. And I did not touch this because I want to leave every single curve with its individual adjustment layer. so I can remove one of them without removing everything. So this is the first curve. The second one, if I tap onto the adjustment button again, you can see that I have the red tone curve set up. So everything else, not adjusted, nothing, not luminance, not the RGB, but just the red curve. This is where I added the green shadows in the shadows area. You can see that at the very bottom left dot, I have lifted up the shadows again of the red tone, and then I have the red tone lower with the second dot, which means greens are going to add into the shadows. That's what the second dot from the bottom means. And then the mid-tone, I have a dot set there just because I don't want to adjust anything in the mid-tone. And by adding the second dot in the shadows, dragging the reds down, it will naturally create this S-curve at the highlight part of the tone to lift up the red at a higher brightness area, the highlights area, to make the mid-tone skin tone kind of a little bit on the red side, so it's a little bit more healthy. And then I have, of course, a dot at the top right corner set to anchor the entire S-curve. So this is the only adjustment layer in this, or curve in this adjustment layer to add in that green tone. If I tap onto it, you see that it's subtle, but it's there. So you can see that in the shadows area, it's a little bit more green. And then of course, I have the frame set up. If I tap on the adjust, it's just the first option. I always want to make it like a little bit simpler. The other ones are a little bit too fancy. So this is just a square or rectangular frame, and I have the frame width set to +10. If you want smaller one, you can go to the negative side, or a thinner one, I should say, but I like the +10 option. This is completely subjective. You can choose how thick your frame is. So these are the layers of the preset that I've created for the recipe that I showed you guys in the previous video, and it looks really good. If I get out of the preset adjustment layers and I tap onto the image holding it, it will show you the original image, and this is how it looks like with the preset. Here, after you have added all the adjustment layers, you can actually save the preset yourself. Again, go back to the previous part of the video to copy the curves and all the adjustments. And here, if you tap onto looks at the bottom left. Oh, by the way, sorry, I totally forgot to mention that you have to add in the adjustment layers by tapping on the tools. The tone curves are inside curves, and the grain is actually under grainy film, and then the frame is actually called frames at the bottom. So this is where you can find the stuff, and there's a lot more that we can explore. If you guys like this kind of videos, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to explore more with you guys in the future. But so far, this is my favorite preset. By the way, let's go back to saving the presets or preset. Under looks at the bottom right, bottom left, you can see that on the very, very right side, we have the plus sign and the 3 dots. If I tap onto the plus sign, I can actually save this preset by naming it. For some reason, the naming thing, it's only going to show you the first, I don't know, 7 letters. So be creative and make sure that you can tell which one is which. So name it. It gives you 24 characters, but it doesn't really show you 24 characters. So I don't know how it's gonna work if you have a long name for your preset, but I just name it under GRIII so I know it's for that camera. And after saving it, you'll see the option of just applying this preset onto your photos. If you want to manage your presets, you can tap onto the 3 dots at the very end, and then you can delete them, adjust them, however, not adjust them, but to rename them. So this is how you save the preset. Let's open up another photo and I'll show you how this preset looked like with the recipe that I showed you guys before. All right, so I have another photo pulled up. This is another photo walk that I did with my friend in Chinatown, Vancouver. He is also a photographer. I was just taking photos of him taking photos. So this is what I found interesting. I like taking photos of people, and the lighting is really cool. It was a cloudy day. You can see that the lights are soft, and I was using the recipe that I showed you guys before on the GR3. Nothing changed. So I have the preset saved at the bottom right corner. If I tap onto it, you can tell that everything looks good already. I didn't really have to do anything. This is before the preset. This is after the preset. I really, really, really like it. So I can just save it, export it, and then that's it. Let's pull another photo example and I'll show you guys how it looks like. All right, this is the last photo sample that I'm gonna show you guys because this is a really, really good example here that I actually need to do a little bit more on top of the preset if the photos turn out to be a little bit not like as ideal, like the straight out of JPEG. This is the JPEG with the recipe. You can see that it's kind of dark. It's an arcade that's closed. And if I put on the preset, it's still super dark. It's cool, it's moody, but then it's kind of too dark to my liking. So this is before, this is after a preset. So I'm gonna tap onto the X at the bottom left corner right here, and I'm gonna tap onto tools at the bottom. I'm gonna adjust the photo before I put on the preset. I'm gonna tap onto tone image at top left, and I'm going to go to ambience. Again, this is my favorite way to adjust the brightness of the image because it gives me a really balanced image. So I'm gonna drag this. Usually I will add another +50 on top of the preset because sometimes I have the camera set to -0.3 exposure compensation, so it's usually really dark. So, but then sometimes I'll go all the way to 100, not 100%, but +100 on ambience. This is after the adjustment, this is before. You can see that it's really nicely balanced. Nothing is really like going too crazy in terms of overexposing the highlights. Whatever that is overexposed, it's overexposed already because it's JPEG. The shadows are lifted really nicely and naturally. So +100 for this photo. I'm gonna tap on the check mark at the bottom right, and I'm gonna tap onto looks to apply the preset. Now, the preset looks really, really nice with this photo. Again, I'm not a film photographer, and if you have any comments that like this is completely not film-like, let me know in the comment section below. I'm just trying to help here to show you guys how I adjust or edit my photos straight out of the JPEGs, the photos straight out of the GR3 as in JPEGs, so I don't have to pay for software like Lightroom or like Capture One just to edit my photos. And this is convenient. I can just literally carry these two things, my camera with the recipe that I created, and then Snapseed editing just the JPEGs. I wasn't even editing the raw photos. Again, I like the JPEGs straight out of the camera with the recipe, and Snapseed is free and it looks really nice. I don't know, like a lot of my friends, like even photographer friends, are like saying that they look nice. I don't know if they're being nice or not. So let me know in the comment section below if I'm doing anything wrong. If you have any presets or recipe that you want to share with us with the GR3 and Snapseed, let me know in the comment section below as well. I always love to learn from you guys. That's it. This is how I adjust my photos so far. If I have any new recipe or new presets on Snapseed or any other software, I'll let you guys know and make another video about it. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.